It's the only reason you get out of bed on Monday. It's another episode of Roll to Roll. I'm Benj,
I'm Chase.
I'm Dave.
and we are thankfully done with races and moving right along. Pretty soon we're going to have a series on the classes of the game, but we're going to do a couple of that you do during character creation, that being your background. We've mentioned them before in previous episodes, and this is one of those things that I think we all pretty much agree is a fantastic addition to the game. Instead of having to decide what your backstory is, you can have an idea, a general idea of what your backstory is, based on the 9 or 10 or 12 that they have listed here in the player's handbook. And you may not use them, but they can give you a starting point. So, Chase, talk to me about backgrounds.
Well, okay. So, as a DM, I always encourage my characters to give their character some role playing fluff goodness. And that's essentially what backgrounds are. They're a way for you to, quickly write up a level 1 character that actually has enough background story to carry through a decent RP session. Is really the short and curlies of what they are. But what Wizards did that was intelligent was they also put a game mechanic into it. So each background has a skill that it gives you, multiple skills, tool proficiencies, equipment. They put little actual in-game mechanics into your background to make it to where the numbers guys can enjoy it and the RPers can enjoy it as well. There are locked backgrounds, so as Ben was saying earlier, you have examples like the noble, the polar opposite urchin, charlatan, stuff like that. But something we'll probably get into later is you can also do custom backgrounds as well with DM approval, of course, which I think anything goes without saying, it's always DM's approval, where you can essentially make your own background and put in your own skill proficiencies and things like that with it that are appropriate to what you're trying to make. But again, we'll get into that a little further down the road. Myself, yeah, that's how I said that. I myself have two backgrounds that I personally like, mainly because it's the two I've played the most and used in characters. And those two are the soldier and the entertainer. I know the rest of the guys here have some main ones they like as well, which I guess I can let them say that before I go on my tangent. So before I go on any more of a tangent, what are some of the other ones that you guys like? I guess Dave can go first.
I'm partial to the Criminal and the Outlander because they fit the classes I like to play the most. Benj?
I would be remiss if I didn't mention the Noble again, since I've mentioned it in the past as a good option. It's not necessarily one that I've played, but it's one that I appreciate that they added. And then also, not necessarily one that I've played, but one that I really appreciate them putting in the game, the Guild Artisan. Of course, like Chase was saying, each one of these backgrounds is going to give you stuff that's a game mechanic thing, as far as abilities or skills or languages or whatever. It's two skills, and then either two tool proficiencies or two languages, or one of each. One tool proficiency and one language, and then some basic gear that you probably picked up in your life before adventuring. So your noble gives you a couple of skills, history and persuasion. Those make sense. History is very important to the noble cast because we don't want people looking back to see why we're noble. And persuasion is really good because you've got to keep everybody happy in court. They give you proficiency in a one type of gaming set because nobles are all about their leisure time, and they get to pick another language. So whoever your allies may be from your noble house, you can do that. They get fancy things for being a noble. They get a good chunk of cash to begin with, some clothes, a ring, some pedigree, whatever, and then they get a feature that's specifically called Position of Privilege, and it does exactly what you think it does. Because you're a noble, you can get favors from other nobles. The peasants respect and revere you because you're a noble. But it also gives you a little bit of a penalty. You have to make sure you don't make anybody upset, especially other noble families, because that'll have long-term consequences maybe for you or your whole house, which is you don't want to ruin your whole family's reputation. Don't be a jerk. The guild artisan gives you insight and persuasion, again because they're seen as like a merchant caste, so they want to know if people are lying to them, and they also want to try to haggle a little better to get a better price. Obviously, you're going to get a tool proficiency in one type of artisan's tools, which is going to give you the ability to craft things or create things in the future. And again, it takes a long time to get these proficiencies. So getting one right out of the gate is really, really handy. And you also get to pick another language because you're a merchant. You're going to talk to other people. And then they give you a set of artisan tools, one of your choice. It designates you get to pick which set of artisan tools you get. So, I'm proficient with mining tools, but I'm going to pick up a blacksmith's kit because I'm a terrible player. But it's obviously there for you to pick to be able to actually get out there and do what it is that you do. You also get a letter of introduction from your guild, some traveler's clothes, and a little bit of money. Your benefit is guild membership. That kind of goes without saying as well. You are a craftsman, a creator of things. So you are, or a merchant. So you are a member of a craftsman's guild or a merchant's guild or whatever, and they're going to help you out. You're going to be able to get hirelings. You're going to be able to meet other people who do what you do. You're going to be able to have a place to work on whatever it is that you do. The drawback there is you've got to pay your dues. It says you've got to pay 5 gold per month to the guild so you can, stay in the guild. Because the word fell out of my head. Union. It's a union. You're in the union, and don't be a scab. Anyway, those are the two I picked to talk about. There are some other cool ones, and I guess I've got 2 other people to talk about the cool ones. Chase?
Okay, so now I get to go on my tangent. All right. So I'm just going to kind of start in alphabetical order because it's just easier. Though this is my favorite of the 2, but I'll start with it. So if you had ever asked me if there was any other edition of D&D, I would talk about me liking bards. I'd say you were a foolish fool and you're just wrong. But 5th edition has made it to where I am becoming more and more fond of bards pretty much every day.
They're great.
And that leads me to my background, the Entertainer. The Entertainer is a background that if you are playing a bard, it kind of is bread and butter to what you do. But there's a twist to it, which I'll get to in a moment. But anyways, just for the bulk of the Entertainer, you are what you are. You are a entertainer. Your skill proficiencies to go with that are acrobatics and performance. Kind of makes sense. Not too much to figure out there. You need to be nimbly pimbly. You need to be able to put on a show. The tool proficiencies is where it gets a little funny. You get a disguise kit, which is essentially a costume kit. But by the rules of the game, you can use it as a disguise kit, which is pretty nifty. You get one type of musical instrument, not that big of a deal, but, it is something to have.
It is if you want bagpipes.
It is if you want bagpipes. But let's be honest,
Because
everyone
they're expensive.
Everyone goes for the loot.
Yeah.
It's always
You gotta have a fat loot.
You gotta have fat loot.
Well, now I hate to interrupt because you were so polite to me while I was talking, but I'm going to do it. If you're a bard, you automatically get a loot.
Now you have dual loot.
So this is your
loot.
backup.
No, you have dual loot.
Like because you get 3. No one has a double loot.
It's a 12-string loot.
It is not 1987. All right.
I have seen Tenacious D. I know what you can do with music.
The double neck guitar, no, but you get 3 instrument proficiencies at a bard, which we'll talk about when we talk about classes. So this is a good way to get another one of your, because my bard is proficient with the lute, the drums, and the bagpipes. But do you know where you can find bagpipes? It's your world, and you can't tell me where you can find bagpipes. So, I'm just saying.
No comment. But
I should have taken this background.
Anyway, as far as the equipment goes, it's just a little bit of cheesy role-playing stuff. You get the musical instrument. You get the favor of an admirer. A matter of fact, I played a halfling bard recently in another campaign where I had a love letter from female halfling that loved my character, but my character didn't get it back. My character was just like, she's just a good friend, and didn't know she had the hots for him. So it was super funny. Money wise, it's the average. A little pouch containing 15 gold pieces, not that big a deal. One of the cool things about it is you get to choose what type of entertainer you are. So you can be an actor, a poet, a fire eater, juggler, storyteller. You can choose. You be what kind of entertainer you want to be. The feature for it is by popular demand. Essentially, anytime you guys are on your travels and you find yourself inside of a town, you can pretty much tell the party they don't got to worry about staying for the night. You go up to the barkeep, say, "Hey, I'm this awesome entertainer. Let me stay for the night, and I will rock out a show," or whatever deal you and the innkeep come to, and done. It essentially takes care of at least you. Most of the time, if the DM is nice, it'll take care of the party too. But we cannot leave the entertainer without bringing up one of my favorite things about it. Some backgrounds have a variant. The entertainer is one of them. And in the campaign I'm running right now, someone has actually used this variant. The entertainer variant is Gladiator, and it's kind of an awesome twist when you think about what you generically think of when you think of entertainer. You think of the bard playing music by the fire, or the old man telling stories, or the crazy person who's swallowing flaming swords. You don't really think about someone murdering people in an arena for entertainment, but 5e managed to add that in there. So I actually have a character in my current party who's a Goliath barbarian who took this, and he essentially is the WWE or WWE
E.
Yeah. Hey.
Yeah, it's an E now.
Yeah, and he's just dropping people's elbows and stone cold stunnering people, and it's just great. That's what he does. I didn't think that would ever actually work in a legit campaign, but I'm seeing it work every weekend. So it is a great way to do it, and super funny when you have a big buff dude, entertaining people in bloody, gory combat. And kind of inspiring people too, which is also kind of funny. But anyway, so
don't take that from me.
That's just the perks of the entertainer. You get to do a bunch of essentially fun stuff and has some minor benefits to it. But now I'm going to get into my actual favorite one. If you guys on the internet there might not know a whole much about me, but generically, for the longest time when I played D&D, I always played the happy-go-lucky paladin, because I'm just a good guy and I like to be the good guy. It's just my thing. And the background in 5th edition that kind of worked out best for me in that regard is the soldier background. Also, it might be just a little, ex-soldier. It might just be a thing that I can relate to. But it's just any person who plans on being the melee, I hit it. And that's all you're kind of really worried about. This is your background. Your skill proficiencies from the get-go are athletics and intimidation. Even if you're doing a barbarian, this is good. If you're doing just a fighter, this is good. If you're doing anything that involves getting in someone's face, this is a good background for you. The tool proficiencies, I'll be honest with you, don't really matter in my opinion. I mean, if anyone disagrees, feel free. But to me, they just don't really matter.
I like the vehicles land. You've got somebody who can drive the wagon.
Yeah, someone who can drive a wagon if their animal handling is good enough to deal with a horse when it freaks out.
Well, I've got a feeling you could use either your animal handling if you were not proficient with the vehicle you were driving, or your vehicle proficiency instead.
Yeah, I guess that's true. As a DM, I might be nice and let you do that. But anyway, what gets to the cool stuff for the soldier is, in my opinion, part one of it is in the equipment. So you actually get a badge, an insignia, where you say, "This is my rank." So anytime you walk anywhere, pretty much everyone immediately knows what you're about and how much of it you are about. If you walk by and you have an officer rank on, they're just like, "Oh, hey, I will listen to you. Yeah, what do you need? Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah." I've also seen some really funny wombo combos when an officer and a noble play in the same party. They essentially can boss around anybody. It's great. The trophy taken from a fallen enemy is just, a good lore background standpoint. Also, apparently, Wizards decided that soldiers gamble a lot because they have all the gaming sets and dice sets and card sets. So apparently, soldiers gamble a lot. I can't speak to that. Cough, cough. Don't know what they're talking about. But kind of like the entertainer, you can roll for it, but I recommend just working it out with your DM or picking what your specialty is. And again, you have things like officer, quartermaster, but there's also some more interesting ones like the healer. And the support staff, so you can actually get some really funny alternatives that can be put in there. And then the last one is just the military rank. It's kind of what I was talking about with the insignia of rank. You go somewhere, someone knows what you're about, and anyone of lower rank within the same army will be like, oh, yeah, I kind of have to listen to you. And in most worlds, that includes the town guard. So if you're like the officer and walk past the town guard, like, you didn't see us murder this man in the alley, go back to your business. This is not the dead body you're looking for. Most of the time, you have a high chance of getting away with that. But anyway, those are my favorite two, and that's for the main reasons. And I guess I'll toss
Your
it off
guards
to
are
Dave.
terrible.
I'm just saying, I recall certain nobles in another campaign making guards look the other way because they were a noble and they didn't want to deal with it. And the soldier was enough to enforce that theory. Granted, he had the title of guard captain, but it still worked. Anyway,
I mean, that does make a difference.
go ahead, Dave. Take the
All
wheel.
right. So my two favorites, like I said, are Criminal and Outlander. One thing I'll touch on that we haven't mentioned yet is on top of the mechanical bits, the backgrounds also give you like suggested characteristics for your personality trait, your ideals, your bonds, and your flaws to help flesh out your character's background and help you figure out what they're all about. The list is random tables, so if you really want to get through it, you can just roll d8s and d6s and figure it out. Or you can go through and pick, and they have pretty good ideas, and they usually have the alignments laid out next to them to kind of show you which way the ideals would push you, if it's a chaotic or lawful. So that's kind of cool if you don't want to have to figure out your whole backstory. This can give you kind of the highlights of your backstory, and then you can go in and fill in the blanks of explaining why you have those ideals and bonds and things. Anyway, so the Criminal gives you deception and stealth for skill proficiencies, because you're a criminal, you're going to lie to people, and you're going to want to not be seen when you're trying to run away.
Filthy criminal.
Yeah, filthy criminal. Your tool proficiencies, you get a gaming set, which, I mean, it's kind of cool, but I don't think I've ever actually used a gaming set in a game before, and I played a soldier who had one, but... And then you get proficiency with Thieves' Tools, which is good, because that's going to be your picking locks, disabling traps. All that stuff is covered by Thieves' Tools now. It's not a open locks or disable device skill check anymore. Equipment, you get a couple cool things. You get a crowbar, a set of clothes, a little bit of money. You don't actually get a set of Thieves' Tools. You're going to have to buy those separately. And then
Or steal them. You're a criminal.
Or steal them. You're a criminal. But you may need the Thieves' Tools to steal the Thieves' Tools. That's the catch-22 right there.
Filthy criminal.
So, the feature, you get a criminal contact. So you've got like a contact who's your liaison to network with other criminals. So you can kind of get messages back and forth and kind of like keep in touch with your contacts and learn little bits and things. It's a really cool way to add like story hooks in for your DM because, oh, your contact wants to talk to you. He's got something going on. He's got a job for you or something like that. And then
Built-in quest mechanic.
Exactly. The small bit, there's another background similar to the criminal called the Urchin that's also very roguish. They get disguise kit instead of your gaming set and sleight of hand instead of deception. So you got two kind of things. If you're going to do a rogue and you want one of the backgrounds, you can kind of decide if you're going to be more of a talky rogue with deception, or if you're going to be more of a pickpocket or a classic thief. And then
Stabby.
exactly. And then the other one is the Outlander, because I like playing Rangers. Outlander kind of goes straight for that. You get Athletics and Survival, which cover both of your Ranger bases, and they're also both just generally useful. You get a type of musical instrument, which I honestly don't understand for an Outlander background, and I tend to work with the DM to try and change that to something that
He bribes
makes
me.
it.
He's trying
yeah,
to say he bribes
I
me.
bribe Chase to let me do something different that makes more sense, because a musical instrument, I guess I get where they're going for, but I don't see it. And then they get you get to choose one language of your choice, because you're from way out there and you would have learned to speak, Orcish because there's an Orc tribe near you and you want to talk to them or yell at them or whatever.
Get off my lawn.
Exactly. Get off my lawn, you filthy kids. The highlights for equipment, you get a hunting trap, which is kind of cool. You get a little bit of money, a trophy, a staff, and then your feature there is Wanderer. So you can always recall the general layout of any terrain, settlements, other features around you, and you can always find food and water for yourself and 5 other people, as long as the land actually has stuff there. Like, you can't go into a barren wasteland and be like, I find food because of my feature. Your DM will probably look at you like you're an idiot. But as long as there's food there, you can feed yourself and 5 people, so you can... That's one less thing for the party you have to worry about when you're on long journeys. You can just find food. You don't have to, like go to the store and buy 1,000 rations and then figure out how you're going to carry all that crap across the world. But yeah, those are the two that I really like. And Benj?
Well, and we're getting into mentioning things like, if you're a fighter, maybe you take soldier, or if you're a ranger, you take outlander. The other really cool thing about the background system is that you can go off the page.
Mm-hmm.
So you could, Dave, you made a paladin whose background was criminal.
I
believe at one point.
I did like a hybrid criminal and acolyte. He had a little bit of both because he was a criminal, and then he kind of joined the church and took a bit of acolyte with him too.
Right. Okay, but I mean, now you're going to get skill sets that aren't necessarily within the wheelhouse of the class you picked. So what they tried to do with 5th edition was make sure that you don't absolutely have to have what you had to have in 4th edition. 4th edition had the roles, the leader, the striker, the defender, and the controller, and you kind of wanted to have one of each. Now, instead of having like... What?
I said, and the healer. No one
That's
ever
what the leader
That's
was.
what the leader was,
The
buddy.
leader is the healer. You're the 4th edition guy. What the... Okay. So... meanwhile, back in the show, so you can go off page. So you can have a paladin who also happens to be proficient with thieves' tools. So now we don't have to have a rogue to fill that niche. I made a bard that happens to also be a sage, which is ludicrous because I have all the skills, but also now I can do the book learning. I can do all the research instead of having to have, say, a wizard that would normally fill that role, who seems like the book kind of guy. And I really like that. I really like the ability to turn one character into another kind of character. The other really cool thing about backgrounds is if you look at the instructions for creating your character, which I don't follow at all, they tell you pick your race, pick your class, pick your background. If your background gives you something your class already gave you, pick anything else you want. I don't really like that, but if you're a rogue and you pick the criminal background, you're going to get proficiency in thieves' tools from your class. You're also going to get proficiency with thieves' tools from the criminal. So now, instead of being like, I'm twice as good at thieves' tools, which you can't really quantify, you can pick any other tool. So you can get your rogue some sort of artisan's tools, or another gaming set,
kit,
or a musical instrument, or a poisoner's kit because you're a rogue. So that's kind of a cool mechanic if you decide you want to go that way. I tend to go the other way and decide what my background is first so that I can get different things. So I can do my mix and match thing instead of saying, oh, well, I took these 2 skills, so now I can pick any other 2 skills. If I want to get stealth, I'm going to find a way to get stealth. Like the skills doesn't make that big of a deal to me, but tools is kind of a big deal, so I felt like it got an honorable mention.
Yeah, and doing it race, background, class feels a bit more organic because that's kind of like the way it would go. Your race is what you're born as, so it's the first thing you get. The background is what you are before you become an adventurer and take a class, so that's what you have next, and then the class comes after that. So picking it race, background, class actually follows the timeline of your character. If that matters.
Well, your race is what you are.
Thing. Yeah.
Your background is who you are, and your class is your job. So you can I guess put those together in any order you want. But like Dave was saying, I feel like it's much more organic to pick race, background, class, because you're born, and that makes you whatever it is that you are, and then your life happens to you, and that gives you your background, and then you get trained to do whatever your class is. But that's how I guess Dave and I both see it. I don't know how Chase feels, and I'm not going to ask him. because instead we're going to move on to the last part of the show because, we want you to be able to get to sleep or work or whatever it is you do on Mondays after you listen to the show, or whatever day you listen to the show. I listen to it on Monday, which I guess is kind of
egotistical.
I don't know how I feel
the word
about
he's
that.
looking for is egotistical.
Well, I was thinking of another word, but it wasn't polite. So, Chase, we've done custom background before. Dave has mentioned doing custom backgrounds or background editing as you see fit. We did a custom background for a character of mine 2 campaigns ago. You want to walk through? You want to walk through the process there?
Well, I mean, I don't have to use just yours. I can kind of just walk through the process as a whole. But for starters, I'll actually go with the route Dave took. This will be my DM tips corner of this little video. So DMs, when you have the player who goes, "Man, I don't like any of these backgrounds. They don't fit what I want my character to be." The first thing I would try to do, because this is going to make your life easier, is to do what Dave did. Find 1, 2, 3. I wouldn't say more than that. Just 2 to 3 backgrounds and merge them. Talk to your player and say, "What about this?" Because everything that keeps it not broken is there in the rules, ready for you. You don't got to worry about creating anything completely new from scratch. You just take two, take some things out of them, put the other things in, and go, "Hey, how about this?" And write up a little. I mean, most of them are a paragraph or two of a brief background description. So you could just alter the background descriptions a little bit and say, "Hey, how about this? Does this fit what you're doing?" Like Dave's, it was essentially a mixture of urchinish rogue with someone of the church, which kind of makes sense. Maybe your character grew up on the streets and the church took them in. So you are a mixture of an urchin and someone who's committed to this insert religion here. So it works. But if you want to be bold, if you want to completely do what I've done for many of my players, and I honestly think it's a more custom way to do it, and most of the players tend to like it more, except for the ones who just really don't care about backgrounds, and do a completely custom one from scratch, the first thing I do is sit down with the player and say, what do you want your character to be about? And now to flip over to Benj, for Benj's example, his was going to be a very weird mixture of essentially, it was a Eastern style culture, so Japanese, Chinese, a little bit of Korean, that fusion of culture, and he was trying to play, essentially he was playing a samurai class, so it was that weird mixture of noble and soldier. And so what I did is I looked at those two classes and worked with him to find out exactly what he wanted to make it. Came up with a little bit of a custom fluff for it because you're not quite one or the other, but you have parts from both. Came up with the proficiencies and tools and equipment and everything appropriate to that, which essentially just, okay, I took one thing of, okay, they're going to be athletic because he's going to be a fighter, and then there needs to be some charisma skill in there because he's also, he is going to be a talker. Part of his thing is he has to actually watch his words very carefully, so put something in there that involves their charisma. And that was how I did the proficiencies. Without going too long into it. And then for the equipment, it was pretty much what would he actually get from that background. Okay, he's a samurai. He's probably going to get a family heirloom of armor. Nothing crazy, something very basic because he's a low-level fighter. I mean, he's not done anything crazy yet. And probably his katana, his main weapon. He's going to get that. Or I think in Benj's case, he went with... did you do a Naginata? Anyway. Insert family.
I got nothing.
Yeah.
I got absolutely nothing for equipment, and actually my skills, because the name of the background was diplomat. I needed a reason to leave so that story-wise I could go meet the rest of the party because they weren't coming to me. So we had worked into my backstory that I was trying to go out and look for trade with the outside. The outside world with my kind of secluded little island 2 months away from anyone else. So I ended up taking persuasion and insight because I was supposed to be a talker. And man, let me tell you, I had to really work on my stat balancing. And we did point by, but I really had to work on my stat balancing because I was both a fighter and a talker. And it was rough. But because insight runs off wisdom, persuasion runs off charisma, but fighting runs off of strength and constitution. So I was having a rough go of it, and then I took 2 extra languages. I didn't have any tool proficiencies, but because I was a diplomat, I needed to be able to communicate with other people, so I got 2 more languages. And then my actual feature was I didn't buy equipment. And I had a stipend for eating. So I didn't have to worry about, the day-to-day expenses of you got to pay for your food. It was like I had a bag of money that was earmarked for food, and I never knew how much was in there. We didn't worry about it. It was just like you can buy food.
You
And
have
then
bare
I couldn't,
necessities.
but I was also not allowed to take any loot whenever we did anything, which the rest of the party thought was awesome. But I had to go home to get gear upgrades. Like I got
Right.
my gear
Yeah.
from my boss, and that the party did not like because it was 2 months by boat, and that caused some strife. I'll just say it caused some strife.
That's a good word for it. But yeah, I remember that because we switched it up because technically you're not really a samurai until level 3 or whatever.
It was
so-
level 3 that I got the class. So I was running around with a spear and a rice picker hat in crappy leather armor
Yep.
as a frontline fighter or an off tank.
Yep.
And don't do that at level 1, listeners. Don't be an off tank with light armor and a +1 dexterity modifier because it won't work. You will die. Beyond that, I mean that's the short and dirty of it is, just pick 2 skills that you like, pick languages or equipment, or rather tool proficiencies as appropriate. Come up with, look in the book and find yourself 50 gold worth of crap. Like what
Yeah.
what
Yeah,
items
that's a good way for it.
would you have on you for being what you were, and then come up with a minor boon for you. Like
the
that's
future.
that's it. That's all you have to do. Like a little boon, like something that you get because of who you are and where you're from and the people around you.
I'll also say that
and-
as far as the flaws and like strengths and stuff go, if you're talking to a player who wants to do their own custom background, I promise you, they already know what they want their personality trait to be. They already know what they want their ideal to be. They are probably already there, and if not, you won't have to work hard to get it. So
And just double check that it fits.
yeah. So as far as the
Not only that
custom
it fits,
stuff-
but it doesn't mess up your game. Like it'll gel with everybody else.
Yeah.
You don't want their ideal to be I'm going to wipe out all the orcs, and then there's a half orc in the party who's like, but are you just going to cut me in half? I don't. What are you?
I just want your left arm.
Because they're probably not that bright statistically. Beyond that, I mean, I think we pretty well covered it. Anything else about backgrounds, Dave? What you got?
Nothing. I think we've pretty well covered everything.
Excellent, Chase.
Yeah,
We've already talked a lot.
Yeah, we've talked too much. You're welcome,
Cool.
internet.
All right. Well, we're going to talk a little bit more. Dave, talk to the people where else they can find us.
So you can also find us on the Facebooks. We have a Facebook page, Roll to Roll. We have our own website up and running right now. It's rolltoroll.wordpress.com. Right now, those are both fairly super basic. It's just got our videos from Facebook, from YouTube posted back on there. And as of this week, we're also starting to upload our podcast to SoundCloud, so you can find us on SoundCloud as well.
And if you're listening to us on SoundCloud, you can also find us on YouTube.
That too.
All right, awesome. Well, again, I'm going to remind you, internet, to do the things that you do. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share. I don't care if you do the share button. To just tell your friends. This is a grassroots, like, trying to build a community thing. We're looking to help, and if no one knows we're here, we can't help. So if you're listening to us, make sure you tell your friends. And comment, if there's something you want to know about or you want us to cover or you would like information on, hit us in the comments, hit us up at the website. Somebody will get back to you. If you want to talk to me, Dave will tell me, hey, somebody wanted to talk to you. Or Dave will tell Chase, hey, Chase, I don't know why, but somebody wanted to talk to you. So man, I'm dogging you today. What is up with that?
I don't know.
But, that's pretty. This is the background show, folks. And I'm Benj.
I'm still Chase.
I'm Dave.
Keep on rolling.